I've spent 7 days shooting with this Nikon ZR, a full frame camera that shoots R3D RAW. And look at the size of this thing. Yes, you heard that right. A Nikon camera shooting the same codec used in big Hollywood films. But the real question is, does it actually matter for creators? Or is it just another marketing strategy wrapped in a cinema batch? I used it for 1 week for my personal videos, YouTube videos, street, low light, control lighting, essentially everything. And here's a real verdict. The stuff that actually shocked me. Well, this is the first camera that sort of made me go, wow, when I was looking at the footage in DaVinci Resolve. The dynamic range is insane on this camera. You can literally see through the night or through the sun for that matter. Highlight roll-off is like a cinema camera because it essentially is one. And I was able to recover bright skies I thought were gone. Shadows were clean and not mushy at all. And if I had to apply noise reduction, it was way better handled by my computer than if I were to do it on a H.265 format. And the most important thing, Red RAW codec changes the entire workflow. You're adjusting ISO after shooting, you're pushing and pulling exposure without your images falling apart. And that's where it made me go, it's not a mirrorless behavior. It's literally a cinema workflow where you can choose how the footage is going to look after the fact. And it's full frame. It's got the same sensor as Z6 III or even Lumix S12. So the sensor is like partially stacked, but when you combine it with the R3D format, the depth you get, the colors you get, it's so warm and it does have a feeling in the footage, which I was not able to get. Even in my Lumix camera, I thought the clips were great, but when you compare it with the R3D, this one does have a bit more character, which is very hard to spot or convert into words apparently, but you would be able to see it. Well, I've never used any other red codec camera, but apparently it's the red Komodo in a Nikon body, which is more than welcome. Like, it's relatively affordable now. I would never have thought that I'll buy a red camera otherwise. Well, let's talk about the real world experience of using this camera. Well, here's the truth that not every creator would tell you. Shooting in R3D is amazing, but saying that, it's not for everyone. File sizes are criminal. I've got a 1 TB card and a 2 TB card which I just bought with the camera. The 1 TB card can only do 6K 60 FPS for less than 1 hour, and if you switch it to 6K 24 FPS, then it shoots for 1 hour and 30 minutes. But if you think about it, so 1 TB footage. The second thing which I experienced was that the workflow needs to change. It's not a normal workflow where you go out, shoot whatever you want to shoot, you're taking B-rolls left, right and center. You actually need to have a plan. With raw footage, you don't actually need to know how to expose well, you just need to learn how to use the waveform or which ISO to use, which by the rule of thumb, if you're shooting in dark environment, use a higher base ISO, which is 6400. If you're shooting in bright environment, use a low base ISO 800, and you would be at a good starting point. But you can learn how to see and watch the waveforms, and you would be in the right mindset to shoot raw. The third thing which I noticed was the screen, the image quality, the depth that you get out of that footage just falls to other cameras. Like looking at this screen right now, which is Lumix's normal screen, right? It's very hard to see what I need to see in the sense of the waveform or the histogram. But when you look at this screen, it's like you're literally holding a phone, and it's very easy to see. Let me show you. If I were to do this, I would be able to literally see everything that I need to see. And hence the screen, although great, but it just means that you would long for the screen if you're using other cameras. But the good part is you don't need to know how to use external monitors, and hence the other reason which people are saying is bad about Nikon ZR is the micro HDMI. Doesn't bother me much, because if the screen's that big And for a creator like me who just shoots for YouTube or personal things, I wouldn't want to use a big rig either way. And with this, I sort of halfway there. I can see the screen easily, even in bright sunlight, like it's got 1000 net brightness, which is more than what you need in any scenario either way. And that brings me to the problems that I faced with the camera. And no camera is perfect. When I used my ZV-E1, I was craving for higher megapixel photos. When I used ZV-E10 Mark II, I was looking for either for dynamic stability, which that camera lacked. When I was using this Lumix S9, the overheating is an issue, or the lack of lenses available at that time. But when you talk about Nikon ZR, there's a lot of things which could be seen as a problem, and let's talk about them. The first of this thing is the lack of end grip. Like, that's one thing which is bothering me since I bought it. I actually ordered a small rib cage before I actually picked up my camera, but it haven't arrived yet. I'm hoping once the cage is here, I would be able to use it more, because it only does have one mounting point, which for a cinema camera is not something I was expecting it to be. Because I've got cages for all my other cameras where even for my Lumix S9 I can use other accessories like magic arm and whatnot. But with this, if I have a tripod mount like here, it sort of makes it unusable in the sense of I won't be able to plug in any other accessories and things like that. The other thing which bothers me a bit is problem with the R3D is the file size is so huge, like 1500 megabits per second, which is, if you think about it, it's a lot. And as I said, like 1 TB for 1.5 hour of recording. And if I were to do a long day when I'm out and about with the family and I just want to shoot random things, it usually comes out to be more than that footage, which means I have to either shoot in 4K, which is fine. Like, that's what I'm used to. Before buying the Lumix S9, I didn't have any camera which was shot more than 4K either way. So I'm fine with that. But when you look at the quality difference between a 6K and 4K, you would want to use 6K recording in this camera. The next bit would be autofocus. I've been using Sony cameras for the past couple of years, and when you use Sony cameras, you get to see how good a autofocus system could be. Now, don't get me wrong, the Nikon Z50 Mark II, which I had prior to this, as well as this, does have the X-Speed 7 processor, which is giving relatively fast autofocus. But it's just that it's not as reliable as Sony. Like, deciding where to focus is the problem, not necessarily when you click on something and tracking. But I was shooting a video last week about my electric cars, and it kept on switching between my hand and the screen. Where if I had Sony and it got the screen, it would know that, in this scene, that's the thing it should focus on. And I've learned now that I would be using like a sort of semi-manual focus, where I would be fixing the focus in those scenes where I want information to be displayed in a particular way. But there are workarounds, like it's fast enough, it's usable, but those couple of things which are bothering me is, as I said, lack of grip, the big image size, and the other thing that bothers me is the lack of custom buttons or normal buttons for the fact. And you can switch between the modes, but the weirdest part is that these modes act as if you're shooting on a dial thing, which other Nikon cameras do have. Like, if I'm on a custom user one setting, it'll switch the photo mode to the same thing. And that's kind of weird, because if you use ZV-E1 or I think even ZV-E10 Mark II, their photos are separate from their video modes. So if you got a toggle, right, photo and video, you should be doing the similar thing. Like, if you shoot on photo, you should have the settings which you had last for your photo, and same goes with video. You shouldn't be switching between modes and then you have to reconfigure the mode that you want to be in photo. Well, there's a trick around it that you can sort of stack those modes, the custom modes on photo and video, and make sure that you're using it like, the user custom mode 1 is, for me in this one, is like a cinema mode for my video and manual mode for my photos. But I shouldn't have to do it. And if other camera companies are allowing it, especially with a body where there's no manual custom dial, then I think that could be something which they can fix on this one as well. Now, the other thing which is something which I've experienced in the past is overheating. Because in my A7C II, I was told that it's not going to overheat, but for me, it overheated. And that got to do with the weather I live in. I live in Australia, and the summers could get quite hot. And since there's no fan in it, it might overheat. We'll know in a couple of months because hey, it's summer and I'll be shooting a lot of footage outside in December break. So let's see if overheating is an issue or not. But having a lack of fan in a cinema camera was a shocker, but it's been performed tranquilly. I've had it for over a week and I haven't seen this sign of overheating yet, and it's not even in the high heat mode for me yet. And although the price is not that high for a cinema camera, like $2,200 US dollars or 3,500 Australian dollars, right? But if you think about it, the card that it takes makes it not a consumer camera, because it needs a very fast CF Express Type B cards, which makes extra investment in the system. It's not just about spending $2,200 and you can start shooting R3D, because there's no compressed formats in R3D which allows you to use lower speed cards. And the CF Express, although it is quite fast, but it's quite expensive as well. Now, coming back to the good things, the image quality. It's the best image quality I've seen in any camera ever, and I was never expecting it to be coming out of a Nikon or Nikon. Just for comparison's sake, I'll actually start recording on this and we'll compare these two footages and you would know what I'm talking about. So currently I'm shooting it on an APS-C lens, which means it's a 4K footage, not a 6K footage, which is comparing to similar which I'm using on my Lumix. They're both using APS-C lenses. This one's at 1.7 aperture. Let me actually change it to match the other one. Right now it's matching to 2.8, so I might have to adjust the exposure on my R3D, but this is what you can expect from a Nikon ZR on a cheap little APS-C lens from Viltrox, which is 25 1.7, and that's the footage you can expect in a controlled light environment. The R3D full frame Nikon color science is a really amazing combination. If you love color grading, the camera is pure joy. If you love squeezing the most out of your footage as far as dynamic range and colors are concerned, you would never have a better experience, especially for the price. But the most important question is, should you buy it? If you're thinking about creating films where you actually plan what you're gonna shoot, then I will definitely say yes. And there's a reason every other creator is switching from their system, like whether it be Sony or Lumix in past couple of years, to this camera. And they might not be buying it as a primary camera, but they still bought it. And most of them said they would never buy a Nikon, or they wouldn't buy into the hype, but they still bought it after using it or testing it. So yeah, this thing is a little monster. You can shoot commercial work, narrative work, documentary, YouTube videos, your personal videos. It could be the best damn camera ever, because trust me when I say it, I've got a 2-year-old and I shot footage with this camera and I was so pleased with the results, especially in interior light scenarios where I wouldn't be able to pull the shadows or get that warmth feeling. But if I shoot with this, the footage is just amazing. But if you're a YouTuber, only buy it if you're serious about color grading and workflow. If you just want clean 4K with no stress, this is certainly an overkill. If you're creating your current setup from a phone or APS-C camera, this will be like jumping from a bicycle to a Ducati. You won't feel ready, but I can assure you, this will be fun. If you care about image quality, there's no competition at this price. So after 7 days with this Nikon ZR, I can say that it's beautiful, it's demanding, it needs changing your workflow. But if you're the kind of creator who pushes images, grades properly, and loves cinematic control, the camera will certainly push you forward to create more and better content. Let me know if you want me to share my settings that I use on my Nikon ZR, or share my workflow where I convert the R3D into something which you can actually post on social media.